が消えかかるそれがオレンジャー熱い血流れる鋼のマシン
Welcome to the Super Sentai Brothers. This is episode 32 of For Your Eyes Ohranger, the internet's best and only podcast dedicated to Chouriki Sentai Ohranger. Each week we watch an episode of the show and we share our thoughts with you, the listeners. My name is Matt J. With me as always is my co-host and brother Dave. Dave, how you doing today, bud?
Good, man. I've got I feel like there's a weight off my mind. I had like some stuff that I was like, I'm going to do this thing. And then I realized that like, you know, man, I just don't think I'm going to have time to do that. So I'm going to stop stressing about it.
Nice. You have...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all good stuff to do. Like, it's just like, I'm trying to like deep clean my house and do some projects before summer's over and I have to go back to work. And I just sort of realized that like, I'm just not going to get it all done. And I just have to, you know, like be at peace about that.
You know, the desire to do all the things is good.
It is.
But when you eventually you hit a point and you realize that doing most of the things is also pretty good.
No, I've narrowed the list down to like, I really wanted to do like a deep clean, like Marie Kondo style, like life-changing magic of tidying up, like throwing a bunch of stuff away out of my house.
Uh-huh.
And we're making pretty good progress on that. If I can get like that done, that would be pretty rad. Have we ever talked about how much I love throwing things away?
I think that we have, yeah.
I love throwing things away. We have some friends, Ryan and Karen, they just bought a house. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Ryan and Karen just bought a house.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, and Karen says like, oh my gosh, we have all these boxes. She posted on Facebook. She's like, we have all these boxes. It's going to take us forever to unpack. And I said, listen, here's the deal. Here's what you do. This is just a life pro tip. I don't like hand out life. Actually, I do hand out life pro tips fairly frequently. Here's a life pro tip. Ready? If you're going to move, put all your stuff in boxes. Don't sweat it. You're moving. You have a lot to do. Pack it all up. Take it to your house. And here's where it gets weird. Fight the urge to unpack it all. Don't do it. Hunt for a year. Don't unpack for a year. I know you're going to feel bad about that, but this is a long-term investment in yourself, Matt. Fight the urge to unpack all that stuff for a year and just get things out of boxes like as you need them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the year, anything that's still in a box, throw it away. Throw it away. You haven't needed it for a year. The likelihood that you like super duper need it in your life is very, very low.
Dave, this seems like a good idea. It also seems like the sort of idea that only works if you have moved into a large, like an area that is pretty large. Because if I did not unpack the boxes when I moved into my apartment, then I would just be like tripping over boxes for a year because I don't have room for them.
Yeah, listen, like I said, it's an inconvenience at the beginning. It's a long-term investment, Matt. And like, listen, don't throw away like your photo. Do people have photo albums anymore? Don't throw away your photo albums. But like, you know, just throw it away. Anyways, we're not here to talk about that, Matt.
No, Dave, we are here to talk about episode 32 of Chouriki Sentai Ohranger. It's called The School's Scary Nightmare, and I already watched it, and it sucks.
Oh, yeah, me too. It sucks real hard. We're going to talk about it anyways, but it's a very bad... I mean, as an episode of television...
It's a well-constructed episode.
It's a well-constructed episode. We'll talk about it later.
But I hated
You'll get
it.
all of our hot takes.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, we're here to talk about that. But before we talk about that, Dave, of course, as always, there are 5 in the heavens. Wait.
How many times have you done this? Oh my gosh.
200. Remember, we just talked about it.
Yeah.
Dave, shining in the heavens, there are 5 stars. What would you like to know? Okay. The first star is mine this week. I've got a script here, Dave, and apparently it's like just a little too far away from my eyes. Dave...
Oh, that's an uncomfortable reminder of your own mortality.
Oh, we're gonna put a pin in that one. We're gonna circle back around pretty soon. Dave, shining in the heavens, there are 5 stars. Would you like to know what our first star of the week is?
Yeah, hit me.
So, I had a house guest this weekend.
Oh, fun.
Or I guess an apartment guest.
I love having house guests.
A home guest.
I actually have a house guest right now.
Oh, yeah?
My father-in-law's here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
So it was a friend of mine from grad school. She had come up into town with her, like some of her family members to see an exhibit at the art museum. And so she just hung out at my place all weekend.
Oh, I walked by that exhibit. I did not actually go see it. I saw part of it. I saw the part that you could see for free.
Well, the thing is that exhibit, the one that we're talking about, please Google the name of the artist, Dave, while I vamp for a second.
Yeah, sure.
It is a series of like small rooms that are set up with like infinity mirrors on the inside and a bunch of like things inside to be reflected in those mirrors, like lights and shapes and so forth. And so like
the artist's name is, and man, like forgive me, there's a lot of vowels in this first name. It's Yayoi Kusama.
Yes. Okay.
And her thing is like bubbles and mirrors.
Yeah. It's really cool stuff. You probably would not have been able to just like hop in and get a ticket because this is the...
Oh, no, it's like super sold out. There was a sign out front of the museum, like, there are no more tickets for this today.
Right. There are no more tickets today. There may not be more tickets until, like, the thing leaves. I did manage to get a ticket. I got a ticket the day that tickets went on sale, which was, like, July 16th. The first time I was able to find a time that I could go was September 24th.
Whoa!
It's a popular
You mean
exhibit.
the ticket for... So what it is, yeah, that's like a room you go into.
It's a series
and
of rooms.
every surface of the room is mirrored. Just look it up. It's very cool.
Anyway.
They also, as part of this exhibit, Matt, have beach balls that are probably like, Matt, I don't know, like 18 feet in diameter, 18, 20 feet in diameter. Let me tell you, the Buddy Bear loved those.
Loved a giant
he was super into
pink
them.
polka dotted beach ball.
Yeah, he was real into it.
I mean, that's very cool.
Yeah, right. I mean, I would be into it.
Anyway, so I don't have a lot to talk about having a house guest for the weekend, except that house guests are nice and they're a great excuse to go out to dinner a lot.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, welcome to Cleveland. Let's go to my favorite pizza place and my favorite place to go get pho. And like we can also go to Melt, which is not as good as it used to be, but it is still very good.
It is still pretty tasty. I think Pete Holmes has like a whole bit about that, about like hosting people in your city and like how great it is.
Yeah, because you get to do all this stuff that you keep, like you drive past it all the time and you're like, I wish I had an excuse to stop. And you do have an excuse to stop. So you can go to the fancy coffee shop that you never quite make time for. Anyway, It was great. I had a very nice weekend. And then I finished it up with watching this episode of Ohranger, which was sort of a letdown. Dave, what is our second star of the week?
Okay, so man, our second star of the week is something we should have talked about this weeks ago, but like I was traveling a bunch and then like we got back and like had a whole bunch of things to do, and I feel actually really crummy that we have not mentioned it before now, is that one of our listeners, Taliz Marvelous, sent us action figures from the most recent season of Super Sentai, Lupin Ranger versus Pot Ranger.
Yeah, and what is cool
and it's just,
is that since Lupin Ranger versus Pot Ranger it's like two smaller teams of Sentai, that means there are two Red Rangers.
Yeah.
And they are both extremely good.
Yeah, and so, first of all, thanks a lot. That's such a neat... It's such a neat thing. Like, it makes me, it makes me feel like a real podcaster. Like, when someone's like, hey, I listen to your show and I like it enough that I, like, thought of you and did this really cool thing, like, for you because I like your show so much. Yeah. It's deeply gratifying.
Yeah, it is. It checks off one of the squares on Podcaster Bingo, where like
someone sent you a thing.
Yeah, like someone sent you a thing. There was another time that we checked off a box when Joe Hunter made us some fan art.
Yeah.
I think the final square to like fill out Podcaster Bingo is Pot F. Tompkins. Not Pot F. Tompkins. That was the name of his old podcast. Paul F. Tompkins is a guest on your show. I feel like that is the final you have a real podcast thing.
I feel like, man, I mean, we're a pretty small podcast, but Paul F. Tompkins is everywhere.
He really is. But that's because he's the best podcast guest.
Yeah, no, he's very, very good.
Anyway, Tellies, thank you so much. That really means a lot. We really appreciate it. Dave, what is our third star of the week?
So our third star of the week, Matt, I'm actually very excited about this because when I got back from my trip, like lodged in the back of my head somewhere, there was something that I had wanted to talk about as a star. And like for the life of me, I could not remember it. And I finally remembered it. So even though I got back a few weeks ago, we're going to talk about it now. So we were driving through Virginia, which, I'm not going to venture an opinion on this thing, but I think it's safe to say, because we don't talk politics on this show, because we don't, because that would be monstrous. But I think it is safe to say, Matt, that Virginia, most of it, is what I would call like real Second Amendment territory. I think that's fair to say.
Okay.
Right?
Now,
And
we should also
so-
say, for the sake of balance, Virginia is also for lovers.
That's true. Well, I mean, lovers...
Lovers of the Second Amendment.
Of guns. Yeah, lovers of the Second Amendment. Is there any, like, there's a bunch of, I don't know who had the first, like, blank is for lovers, but I think, like, a lot of people use it.
I associate it most with Virginia, but I don't know why. So
I associate it with Virginia, but also with, like, the 70s, which is, I feel like, the last time anybody used the phrase, like, lovers.
well, the 70s were definitely for lovers.
So this thing caught my eye because, like, it occupied the center of a Venn diagram that has, like it's like 5 or 6 different bubbles, and this thing sits perfectly in the middle of it. And it was a sign for an establishment called Molan Labe Vineyards.
Okay.
So, Molan Labe, if you're not familiar, in the Battle of Thermopylae, as made famous by Frank Miller's like super action-oriented...
the famous
300
comic book artist and writer, Kevin Miller.
Kevin Miller. So anyways, Frank Miller. So at the Battle of Thermopylae, right, the Babylonian, I think he's Babylonian, he says to the Spartans, like, lay down your weapons, and they reply, Molan Labe, which roughly translates in English as to come and take them.
Dave,
right?
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you. It was the Persians.
Oh, Persians, thank you.
It was Xerxes, yeah.
Yeah. So Xerxes says, lay down your weapons, and the Spartans say, Molan Labe, which roughly translates as to come and take them. So here's the thing about that, is that Molan Labe has also become a sort of like rallying cry for people who are like very passionate about their Second Amendment rights.
Okay.
You know, like gun control, and they would be like, Molan Labe, like, come and take them. With like the implication that, like, if you come and take them, like, you're gonna see the business end first is the idea, you know? Which, like, okay, Molan Labe, like, that's a pretty hard thing to say, like, I'm a Molan, you know, the Spartans. But it's a vineyard?
Yeah. Hey, maybe, now listen, let's take another angle on this. Maybe what this means is they really want people to come buy their wine. Like,
really
hey,
want them to come
and
buy
take
their
them.
wine. I have really, Matt, I just, like, I was so tickled by the idea that you're like, we've got a vineyard, but I also love my guns. Like, there's a deep political statement, but also you're making wine, and I've really been racking
And
my
they
brain to
really
come
loved
up with
300, the Zack Snyder
really,
film.
That could be it. So I've been really racking my brain to come up with different wines that they could sell, and all I can come up with is there's the not as good one is pistol grappa shotgun, like a pistol grip shotgun, but grappa.
Okay.
Right? That's the less good one. The only one that I'm even sort of happy with is Chardonnay K47.
Okay, I see it.
But that's all I've been trying very hard to come up with like gun wine puns, and all I've got is Chardonnay K47. But that itself is pretty good. So Molan Labe Vineyards.
All right.
I just like I saw it and I just started. I literally laughed out loud because I was so tickled by it. So Matt, what is our fourth star of the week?
Dave, fourth star of the week is you know how we're an industry podcast for the film world.
Yes.
We're here to give you all your hot news. Rats, by the way,
That is the thing that we do.
speaking of hot news, I was going to, while we were talking about the Battle of Thermopylae, say that what we were offering was hot takes on the hot gates, which was a very good joke, but I forgot to say it. So just go back and
Mark,
plug that
can you
in somewhere.
Edit that? Yeah, I was going to say, if Mark could edit that in someplace, that would be excellent.
Anyway, there is movie news.
Yeah, so our big movie news, we have an announcement to make.
Exclusive.
Exclusive. No, so if you pay attention to these things at all, you probably already know this, but Marvel is buying Fox. Like, it had been in talks, but like, maybe
Dave,
some other people were going to.
Disney is buying Fox.
Or Disney. Disney. Marvel is not. Disney is buying Fox, which like had been in some talks, and I think it had come down to basically like Disney or Comcast, and Comcast sort of dropped out of the bidding as of yesterday when we were recording this, or Friday, I think, I forget. But now, so Disney basically, like, it's more or less a sealed deal, is going to buy Fox. Do I care about that in a lot of vectors? No. There's two things I do care about. One, now Disney just owns everything.
Yes.
So, we're one step closer to Cyberpunk 2020, which is fun.
Mm-hmm. Hey, man, 2 years away.
Value of fun. Yeah. So, actually, I don't think I mentioned this to you. I went back and read the Cyberpunk 2020 book. Mm-hmm. Do you remember how bad it is?
The rules?
The rules.
Yeah, the rules are almost unplayable. The world of the game is amazing, but...
The world is great. The game is virtually unplayable. It's so bad. But anyway, so the first is that we're closer to Cyberpunk, like mega corporations running everything. So that's fun. But the second is that now all of those Fox Marvel properties are back in the fold. It's all MCU eligible. The whole thing. I don't think there's rights to anybody that they don't own yet or anymore or will own. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's all back now.
Which is very, like... It's kind of weird, though, right? Because the Marvel Cinematic Universe has had to sort of do a couple of creative backflips to work around the fact that they didn't have some key, like, characters available to them. And now those characters are available to them?
Yeah, well, they didn't have the X-Men. And that's not actually a huge deal. Because the X-Men... Like, the X-Men are so sprawling that they're kind of a franchise unto themselves.
Yeah,
and, like, they do cross over with other properties, but, like, they mostly just cross over with themselves. So, like, that's less of a big deal. But they didn't have the Fantastic Four, which, like, they're Marvel's first family. Like, they're the Fantastic Four. Like, so much stuff in Marvel is built around, like, the existence and adventures of the Fantastic Four that, as you said, like, there's got to be, like, some weird creative backflips to figure out how to do stuff without them there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and of course, now that they're there, you know what we're going to get? We're going to get a terrible movie about Doctor Doom.
No. We're probably going to get a great movie about Doctor Doom because they've all been great.
Okay, so here's my here's what I think they should actually do.
Okay.
Now that they have done a very bad job of making Doctor Doom movies twice, they should not. I mean, Doctor Doom should show up eventually. But here's my pitch: do Mole Man. Like, Mole Man is what you actually want, because all of the best Marvel movies, like, okay, one of the things that is good about the Marvel movies is that when they are at their best, they manage to be, like, Winter Soldier is a great spy thriller first and is a superhero movie second, right? And Ant-Man is like a fun heist movie that is also a superhero movie, right? So they shouldn't do just like a straight superhero thing with the Fantastic Four. It should be like a crazy adventure kaiju movie that is also a superhero movie.
Dude, that would be pretty fantastic.
Oh, dude, it would be fantastic. Speaking of giant kaiju, Dave, did you see the trailer for the new Godzilla King of Monsters movie that's coming out?
I haven't. I did see the Shazam trailer.
Dude, that looks for real very good.
It looks very, very good. There's also an Aquaman trailer out, but I haven't seen that one yet.
Anyway, San Diego Comic-Con is happening right now, which is why all of this stuff is being announced. We should have pretended that we're coming live from the show floor. It is way too late for that.
That would have been believable for 0 seconds.
No, we could have put some Foley sounds in the back. It would have been super believable, Dave.
I don't believe you. So that's really exciting. I'm stoked to see all these things kind of come back into the fold. I do hope that they don't do a Fantastic Four origin, because, like, guys, there's been like 3 movies now. Like, everybody kind of knows, like, cosmic something. There's 4 of them and powers and blah, just do it. You can just launch in. Everybody gets it. We're good. What is our 5th star of the week?
Well, Dave, remember earlier when I was talking about the creeping realization of my own mortality?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mentioned it, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. Credit where credit's due. So I was eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich the other day, Dave, and it had raspberry jam on it. And you know how raspberry jam has the seeds in it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I got what I thought was a chunk of a raspberry seed stuck between my 2 back molars. If you are very upset by teeth stuff, then skip forward a few minutes.
That's apparently a thing for some people, but... Yeah.
Anyway, as it turns out, it was not a piece of raspberry seed stuck in between my teeth. I mean, it might also have been that. What actually happened is that one of my back molars had just cracked, and part of that tooth that had cracked off was wedged between its origin tooth and that tooth's neighbor. So for like a day and a half,
I don't have weird teeth anxiety stuff, but that's a little.
Oh yeah, man,
Ugh.
It wasn't great. It did not crack so deep that like it hit the nerve or whatever. But it did crack deep enough that I made an immediate call to a dentist, which is the first time I think the first time I have gone to the dentist as an adult with my own dental insurance.
Oh, okay.
Which might explain why when I got to the dentist, they were like, oh yes, I mean, you do a good job brushing your teeth. You definitely have 5 cavities.
Oh, whoa, buddy.
Yeah, only one of them is very bad, though. A lot of it's very surface stuff. It shouldn't be too bad. And like I said, now I actually have dental insurance. But there was this moment of walking in. Because, like, listen, one of the reasons I hadn't gone to the dentist in a long time, it's not because I'm scared of the dentist. It's that I went to the dentist all the time as a kid, and I never had any cavities. And then I didn't. Oh, I've never had a filling, by the way. And I mean, that's the countdown clock on that is about to end. But so the last time I went to a dentist, quite some years ago, I hadn't been in a while then either. And they said, oh yeah, I mean, you haven't been here for years, but your teeth are still totally fine.
No, that's exactly what happened to me. I went to the dentist for the first time, and no joke, I think a decade, like a year and a half ago, and they're like, yeah, you're totally fine.
Yeah.
Like, everything's cool. They're like, you should floss more. And I'm like, I actually do floss every day. And I'm like, that's how I know that you're lying about the flossing thing. Because I floss every day. I think you just say that. You say that to everybody.
I mean, it's fair. They should assume that people aren't flossing because no one flosses because flossing is terrible.
Yeah, right. I mean, like on the balance, they're right. I just know that they're not actually paying attention to me when they say it. No, my teeth were fine. I think I got all of my like weird teeth karma out of the way early.
That's probably true, yeah. Well, you had a lot of mouth. Oh yeah,
dude, I had like
stuff.
My wisdom teeth out. I had like jaw surgery. Like my jaw was wired shut in high school and stuff to correct some stuff. Like I've done my mouth stuff, guys. It's I paid my dues.
You made your bones. Anyway, yeah. So that is just an exciting new feature of my life. Is that now apparently I'm a dentist guy again because I have to be.
Fun.
And you know what? I blame the last dentist for this because the last dentist put these like sealant things on some of my teeth. And I thought, oh, okay, that means those teeth are fine. And all the teeth that got sealants are now all of the teeth that have cavities. So thanks a lot, sealant guy.
Is it those specific teeth?
Yeah, it is.
Because you may want to, if it's those teeth and only those teeth, like, sounds like you may have a lawsuit on your hands.
No. Apparently what happens is if you get the sealants put on your teeth and then you don't go to the dentist ever, like the sealants break down unevenly and need to be like fixed and reapplied. And so if you just never go back to the dentist, you end up with sort of like a Swiss cheese version of those sealants on your teeth that like actually work against you to trap bacteria between the sealant and the tooth.
Oh, well, that's horrifying.
Yeah, so I like to think that if I hadn't gone to the dentist 8 years ago, that one time, then I still wouldn't have any cavities, but that is all horrible water under the potentially very painful bridge, Dave. That is the end of our 5 stars. We are going to take a break, and when we come back, we are going to discuss episode 32 of Chouriki Sentai Ohranger, The School's Scary Nightmare. Man, why'd the show have to do this to me?
Dude.
We were all having a good time, Dave.
Yeah, everybody was cool, except this monster.
Yes. Anyway, let us get into this thing.
Well, actually, this is okay. There's one thing I can say for this episode. Which is, Matt, is it a spoiler if I say that it'll be nice to actually have somebody who gives General Cactus a run for his money?
No. I think that is a good way to preface this conversation, Dave.
Okay, yeah. So that's the one good thing about this. Is this dude gives General Cactus a run for his money. So we'll actually have a little bit of debate about the very bottom of the Creature Royale.
Yeah.
Okay, so this episode starts off with basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little bit of basketball.
Yeah, Momo.
No dunks, sadly.
So Momo goes to an abandoned school, it seems.
Yeah, so that's weird.
And there is is it a basketball or a soccer ball?
Well, there's a basketball hoop, and then a basketball goes through it, and then there's a soccer ball.
Momo kicks this soccer ball. It goes up and like flies into a second or third story window. And
it's like a fourth story window.
It is an astonishing kick.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. And it like bounces into this room, and it gets the attention of this girl who comes to the window, and she's like, Momo! And Momo's like, Mayumi! And then Momo picks up a basketball, and just real cash, like behind her back, just nothing but nets a basketball, like without looking at it. So, dang, Momo.
I guess Momo's got hoops.
She goes up. Momo goes up to find this girl, Mayumi, who is like a schoolgirl.
Yeah.
She's, like 11 or 12 or something.
They will later say that she is year 4. I do not know what age that translates to typically, but if you do know what age that translates to typically, then you know how old this kid is.
Hey, she's clearly not like, she's not like an older teenager. I would guess she's somewhere between the ages of like 11 and 14.
Yeah, that seems
like
about
somewhere
right.
in that realm. So she goes up, and Momo's like, "Hey, let's get home. Like, you've been studying so hard." And the girl's like, "Yeah, like my teacher says like my marks aren't super good." And then there's this voice.
Yeah, she says, "I need to check with the teacher before we leave."
Yeah, and then there's this voice, like a disembodied voice. You don't know where it's coming from, and it just says, "Mayumi, like you cannot leave. You must stay here." And Mayumi like flinches a little bit, and Momo is just like, what is happening?
Yeah, Momo has the reaction of someone who has never heard this before, and Mayumi has the reaction of someone who has heard this many times and hates it.
Yeah. So we get like a quick like camera angle, like scurrying along the ground, which that's the best way to say it. And then everything goes dark. And Momo now is flipping out. And Mayumi, again, is having the same sort of reaction. Like, she's sort of used to this happening, but she does hate it. And they're sort of running through the building, like, trying to figure out how to get out. And then they break into, like, a science lab, like an anatomy lab. And there's a person in there, and you can't see... Like, they're completely covered in, like, a robe thing. Like, the only portion of this you can see is, like, a little slit for, like, their eyes. Like, that's it. Other than that... They're completely covered.
Yeah, now this, I know that this sort of like robe getup has a particular name, and I cannot remember what it is for the life of me. Like, I've seen it in other anime stuff in the past.
Okay.
But it might be a modified version of whatever it is. Whatever it is, like, it is a spooky looking robe thing that covers him entirely, except for that eyeball thing.
Got it. Okay, yeah, thank you for saying that, because it did look kind of familiar, and I couldn't figure out what it was. Okay, so he's covered up, and he's got a cleaver, and he is, like, he's taking apart an anatomy dummy with the cleaver.
Yeah, which does not seem like it should be that spooky, but it totally is.
Well, it's spooky because it's very obviously meant to be, like, if this were not a kid's show, there would just be an actual body. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, the intent behind it is clear, and so the creepiness, I think, like, transfers, you know? And then he's like, it's time for your anatomy lesson. And then he, like, hurls the cleaver, and it, like, wangs through the door. And like, they freak out. And Momo's like, what is going on? Like, who is that? And Mayumi, she doesn't say, I don't know who it is. She says, I can't say who it is.
Yeah, like, you can tell she is struggling and she wants to say the name of this monster, but, like, something is preventing her. And as this creature is getting closer and closer to them, eventually, Momo, like, wakes up in her bed. This has all been a terrible dream. Except for the beginning part, where Momo worked into her own dream that she is amazing at basketball.
I did think about
which
that.
I love.
So she wakes up from this nightmare, and in her room, her entire back wall is a poster for a Luc Besson movie called Le Grand Bleu, which I was just like, what is going on with this poster? And I looked up Le Grand Bleu, and it is the name of a cruise ship, but there was also a Luc Besson movie about this cruise ship.
Okay.
And it would have come out at the right time, like, since Ohranger was 1999. And I was like, it just seemed like it was just so weird to have, like, this is a large poster. This poster is probably like 10 feet tall, or however tall the wall is, like 8 feet tall, something like that. It's a very, very large poster.
Well, I guess this is, we have finally learned some things about our characters, Dave. We now know that Momo is a big Luc Besson fan.
Yeah, I guess.
And she wishes that she was a basketball star.
Yeah, so she wakes up, and we also find out that Momo sleeps in her uniform, which is a little bit funky, because she just pops out of bed and she's like already dressed. I don't think she's wearing her boots, but she might be. So the next thing
Always
we
gotta
see
be prepared, Dave.
Yeah, and so she is at base, and she is talking to everybody else. Primarily, she's like, this dialogue is mostly happening with the chief. And she says, listen, like, this is not 100% a dream, because Mayumi is a real person that I know.
Right. And
I did know.
And I've been dreaming about her every night. And basically what she is doing is she is asking for, like, official leave to, like, go back to her old hometown. Not the hometown that we saw that was, like, a neighborhood in Tokyo earlier in the series. This was her old hometown before she transferred schools.
Yeah, because she does say, like, I left the school. But so, what she says is, this girl is not alive.
Yeah, because
like,
this
girl died when we were in school.
She drops this halfway through the conversation, and I think she sort of expected people to know, because they're talking, and someone says, like, oh, well, what is this girl up to now? Like, you know, in the dream, she looks like she did in high school, but now she would be your age. So, like, what is her job? Where does she live?
And Ho just says, like, oh, no. She dead.
Yeah.
She's been dead for, like, 11 years. But, like, I do want to know what's, like, it's very weird. Like, I need to go check this out. And the guys say, I think it's Goro, says, Momo, this is just a dream. Like, don't worry about it.
As though they have
like,
not had, like,
exactly.
machine beasts invade their dreams before.
Like, guys, come on. Like, you are, like, this is literally your whole deal. It's the one thing that I think the Kaku Rangers, like, were really good, like, really knocked it out of the park. Like, as soon as something even vaguely weird happened, the Kaku Rangers were like, oh, this is clearly a yokai. Like, something, I don't know what it is, but something clearly very weird is happening here.
Yeah.
Everybody be on the lookout for yokai shenanigans.
The O'Rangers, perhaps not so much.
Yeah.
And eventually, Momo says, and the weird thing is that not only did Mayumi disappear, but every year since then, around the same time of year, one or two, like, young girls disappear from that school. Like, it happens every year. It's still ongoing. I want to go check it out. And at this point, Chief is like, okay, like, if that is the case and people are still in danger, then yes, go run down your hunch.
Yes. I just...
Also, who
Remind
would
me to say
continue
something
to send
about
their
the-
children to that school?
Yeah, first of all. Well, it's, it's just like the school. Anyways, Matt, do remind me to say something about the 11-year mark here.
Okay.
When we get a little bit later in the episode. There's a lot of things that I want to say about this 11 years. Anyways, Chief says, yes, go check it out. Thank goodness. So Momo, she goes back to, like, her old hometown, and the next scene we see is that she is talking to Mayumi's mother. And she's like, listen, I know this is really weird. I know it's been a really long time, but, like, can we kind of talk about, like, what's going on? I don't think Momo has mentioned these dreams, but the mom says, listen, we are convinced, like, that Mayumi is not dead. Like, I'm her mother. I would know somehow. We really think she's still alive. Like, we kept her room the way it had been. But, like, something obviously is very wrong.
Yeah. And, like, she is, it is a wound that is never healed for her,
Yeah.
And Momo says, listen, I know this is very difficult for you, but don't worry. I am going to go, like, finally get to the bottom of this thing.
Yeah, I'm going to figure out what's going on. There is a great little... there is, like, a very brief interlude where, like, Momo looks over at a picture, and it's actually of her and Mayumi as kids. And there's a flashback, and they're riding on their bikes, and Momo says, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And Mayumi says, I don't know. And then Momo says, I want to be a nurse, which is... Like, it was a weird... it's like a weird thing to put in, because it's like, Momo is definitely not a nurse.
Right. They had a great opportunity to have her say, like, I want to be a pilot or something.
Yeah, or like literally anything related to what Momo has ended up doing, but she's like, I want to be, like, listen, I'm not, like, I love nurses. Mom is a nurse. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But like, it was just a very weird moment. So we go back to the beginning, or go back to the house, and there's a really great moment where, like, in the background, you see, like, there's like a sliding door window, like a sliding, yeah. And there's a fence beyond that, and you see a shadow, you see just a shadow, like, come into view on the fence. And it's very quick, but it's a great, it's a really good moment. Because obviously it's the monster, like, listening outside this door. But, you know, like, he doesn't, like, poke his head around. You just see the shadow. It was really cool. And then literally, like, the very next moment, you do see the monster because, like, we shift over to a different point of view.
Yeah, we have moved to the school now because Momo, like, that's where the dreams take place. And so that is where she's going to go to try to find this. So she rolls into the school, and she's in... like the basically the same, like, outdoor yard where the episode began in her dream, and this creature jumps out and, like, knocks her into the soccer goal, so she is, like, kind of trapped and can't get past him. They have a brief scuffle, and he pulls out like a zapper thing and zaps her with some sort of
it's like an electrode.
To me it kind of looked like a joy buzzer.
Well, but it, like, sticks to her head. Like, he puts this, like, patch on the side
does he?
of her
Okay.
head.
Well,
yeah.
So he zaps her, and she goes down, and he's about to, like, grab her, but the other Ohrangers have arrived now, which is strange, because she didn't call them, and they're far away from Tokyo, and she got, like, special leave to go away. So, like, listen, it's great that they're there, but the episode makes no attempt to explain how they found her.
Yeah, that's a little bit funky. But, you know, whatever. So, yeah, so the monster, he doesn't stick around to fight the Rangers. He just, like, puts this thing on Momo and rabbits. And then the next scene we see is they have brought her back to base. She's, like, under observation, but she's asleep. Like, they can't wake her up.
Yeah,
and the chief says
they've got some wires hooked up to her head, and the chief says, like, she's asleep, and that's, like, there's nothing wrong with that, but I can tell from her brain waves there's, like, unusual brain activity. I think she's in some sort of agitated dream state.
Yeah, like, she's having a real Trogglehumper is what she has had.
Sorry there? Say again?
Trogglehumper?
I mean, I guess
like I
guess that I did understand the syllables that you said.
From the BFG? Nothing? Did you never read the BFG?
I mean, I haven't in 20 years. That is not a phrase that is in my active vocabulary.
Oh, well, I mean, it doesn't come up a whole lot, but, like, yeah. So, like, you know how the BFG, like, blows dreams, right? Mm-hmm. So a really, really good dream is a golden fizz wizard, and a really, really bad dream is a Trogglehumper.
All right.
So that's... Anyways.
And now you know the rest of the story.
So they said, like, well, here's the deal. We know that she's having this dream. We don't know how to wake her up. Like, that's the problem. So we go from there into said dream. Okay?
Yes.
So it's Momo. She's back at the school, but now she can't find Mayumi. Like, she's hunting around in this school, trying to find Mayumi. You go to the science. She goes back to the science lab, and the dude is there. And here's where we get our first. He plays. He shows his hand about how awful he is, like, very, very early, and he says, "This is all your fault." Which, first of all, victim blaming. He says, "This is all your fault. Like, if you had not interfered, like, everything would be fine."
I mean, for him, it would be fine.
Yeah, so he said...
Like, it would not have been fine for anyone else involved.
Yeah, for, like, literally anybody else.
It just would have been fine for him. Because he could have continued his reign of terror.
So what he says, I kidnapped Mayumi because I just love cute little girls. And so this goes to, like, level 10 creepy very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And he pulls out, and he has got, like, a framed saying it's a collage is not it. This is like, this dude went to Olin Mills Photography Studios and got like the family package. It's like framed with like a cutout mat inside and like 7 pictures of 7 different little girls.
Yes, who have all been... Okay, first of all, the number of girls does not line up with the number of years that... Because Mayumi's been missing for 11 years. Mm-hmm. And Momo said that every year, 1 or 2 girls disappears.
Yeah.
So there should be at least 11 or 12 other girls.
You know, I did not do that math in my head, but yeah, you're totally right, because there's like 7.
Hey, listen, I'm glad that fewer little girls were abducted by this horrible creature.
Yeah. So that's... So, like, first of all,
I'm just pointing out the math flaws, folks.
Oh, my gosh. So, like, at this point, I just want to say, like, at this point, I am watching this episode for posterity, because, like, I know we have to do this podcast. Like, I'm suffering through the rest of this episode.
Yeah, see, okay,
because this dude
here's the problem,
so
though.
deeply uncomfortable.
Like, up until that point, it's a well-made episode, right? Like,
it continues to be a well-made episode, in terms of, like, the cinematography and like all the wacky stuff like that all is good.
And they do a good job of making it feel like a horror movie. And like they do this, I don't know, they'll do it like once or twice a season. Remember in Ohranger, the episode with the spider guy?
Oh man, that was really,
and like
really
it
good.
was great because it really had this sort of like spooky horror, like slasher movie vibe. And this also has kind of like a Freddy Krueger style thing. Like he's attacking in dreams. It's very cool, except for the fact that this guy, who is about to be revealed as a character named Baron Nightmare, is just the garbage worst.
Yeah, he's appalling. So, and I remember this from before, Momo fights like the creepiest monsters, because she also fought the weird... Remember, like, the weird time-shifty monster last time?
Yeah.
Like, all of Momo's, like, one-on-one monsters are real weird.
Momo fights the weird monsters. Momo's also, like, the only character that we've ever gotten this sort of, like, childhood background stuff for. At this point,
that's a good point, yeah.
Momo is kind of the character that we know best, which genuinely, like, I do kind of like that she is the person who gets the most showcase stuff, but it is surprising because she did not, in the early part of the season, feel like the person who was going to get that much of a spotlight.
Yeah, no, she definitely did not. So anyway, so we hear Mayumi call for help from there. And so that is like, that's kind of how Momo gets involved. Like basically, Mayumi is trapped in this dream world, but for whatever reason, maybe because like she's been there the longest, she has figured out how to like transmit like calls, like dream calls for help, like to Momo.
Yes.
Now, I don't know. I think maybe just because like Momo was her best friend or whatever. Like she can't possibly know that Momo is an Ohranger now.
I don't know. I mean, because she appears as an Ohranger in the dreams, and then also Baron Nightmare immediately recognizes her as an Ohranger.
Oh, good point.
Like,
yeah, so maybe she manages, like, there's some sort of, like, in the dream connection, like, she learns this stuff about Momo.
Okay, so Momo and Bara Nightmare have, like, a brief scuffle where she pulls the robe off of him. And then we see what he looks like underneath that robe. And he's got a huge brain head. Like, his head is a huge brain.
Yeah.
He's
and
got,
then the rest
like,
of him is
visor.
just sort of like a...
He's got, like, Cyclops' visor.
He's got like a full metal faceplate and like a Cyclops visor. And then like a weird like harness that he's wearing. But then the rest of him is like just kind of like a bodysuit. There's not really much going on for Baron Nightmare visually aside from his giant brain. He's vaguely reminiscent of the aliens from Mars Attacks, if you ever saw that movie from like 20 years ago.
Yeah, except he doesn't have like the crazy face.
Yeah.
I heard there's going to be a new Mars Attacks comic. Like that is a property that like gets revived every now and then, which I think is very fun.
It's a little weird to me, but
I don't know. A lot of people really like it. Anyway, So she manages to get the robe off of him. He starts talking about how, like, oh, you're an Ohranger. You fight Bacchus Wrath. I also defied Bacchus Wrath years ago and was exiled to avoid execution.
Which, first of all, let me just say, that makes me like Bacchus Wrath a whole lot more.
Yeah, I really do like that because, like, this guy is, like, a total, like, creep. He's a creep.
Everybody recognizes that.
Right,
Like, even Bacchus Wrath, who is actively trying to exterminate all of humanity.
Yeah, he's like, I'll kill them all, but I don't want to be a, like...
But I don't want to be weird about it.
Yeah.
Like, you're just creepy about a bear nightmare. So let me talk about this thing. This dude has been on Earth for 11 years.
Yes.
Paranoia only showed up earlier this year. Unless they've just been chilling on the moon for a decade.
No, because they would have, like the Ohranger program people would have noticed them up there.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Like there's a big invasion the first episode. So what must have happened is that Baron Nightmare defied Bacchus Wrath, like back when they were in a different galaxy, and when he fled to Earth, and it's total coincidence that now he is here and Bacchus Wrath is here. Like I got a different theory actually. Because, like, Bacchus Wrath is totally fixated on Earth, right? As far as we know, there are no alien... Oh, no, wait. Have they talked about there being alien races? Okay.
Has Bacchus Wrath said, like, we've conquered everywhere but Earth?
Okay.
Is that right?
Here is the problem. I don't remember because in Power Rangers Zeo, the Machine Empire had conquered everywhere else all over the galaxy, I think. And so, like, I keep... conflating the Machine Empire with the Paranoia Empire because it's that makes sense. It's the same footage. Right. So I can't remember if in a Sentai, but I think that is the case.
Well, in either way, like Bacchus Wrath is totally fixated on Earth. So and since he is like the first, he's like the first Paranoian or what, like he built everybody else. Maybe like everybody else is like also fixated on Earth. So Bacchus or Baron Nightmare, when he is exiled, he's like, where am I going to go? Like, I don't know, Earth. That's like everybody, you just go to Earth. So maybe that's why he's here. But anyways, I do really like the fact that this dude was too much of a creeper for Bacchus Wrath. I dig that quite a bit. So we dip from there. We go back to headquarters. And the team is saying, like, Momo is still there physically, right? Because this is all happening in a dreamscape.
Yeah, and whenever Baron Nightmare is like attacking Momo in the dream, her body is like flying around the room.
Oh yeah, like she launches, which actually makes sense because they do have super strength or something, right? And so like maybe when she's like spasming, it's like really launching her. Anyways, so the rest of the team says, listen, if we could get into the dream, maybe we could help. Like, is there a way to do that? And the chief says, like, yeah, let's try it. Like, maybe we can get that to work. Here's what we'll do. And he does, like, it's Super Sentai science. Like, they don't explain. Just the team is lying down. They have electrodes on their brain. And the chief's like, I'm going to sync up your brain waves now. And then that will put you in the dream.
And the good news is it totally does.
Yeah, it totally works. So we go from there back to Momo.
Now, I, before we get further into this, I want to apologize because I know this might be difficult to follow because like the show is working on dream logic here. So we're going to try to explain things, but if you are wondering like, wait, she's in the room with the elevator, why is she there now? I thought she already left. Like, yeah, I also wondered about that, like, but the show is weird. Yeah.
It's worth, how to say, I wouldn't watch this episode, but if you want to watch like if you really want to see how you kind of do have to watch the episode. Because like Matt said, there's a bunch of like, you run through the same hallway 3 times and it's hard to explain. So Momo is in an elevator going down.
Yeah, sort of like indiscriminately down. And it's not an elevator like you would have in an office building. It's an old...
It's like a cargo. It's like an old cargo elevator.
Yeah, with like a cage on all the outside of it.
Yeah, so she goes down and it opens up into like this big empty room. And then...
There's some stairs in the room?
And there's nothing else, I don't think. And Momo she calls this dude out. She's like, I don't know what's up with you. You're clearly a monster. Why are you picking on little girls. It's super creepy. And then the stairs catch on fire.
Mm-hmm. And then Mayumi's...
Actually, it's probably more accurate to say these stairs burst into flame.
Yes.
All at once, the stairs are all on fire.
Yeah. And then Mayumi's backpack, bounces down those stairs and lands at Momo's feet.
Yeah, she picks it up and she's like, oh my gosh, Mayumi, I hope you're okay. And then Momo gets, TK slammed back into the elevator.
Telekinesis, Kyle.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back up. The Rangers then arrive, and they just sort of phase into existence in the dream, and they are already, henshined.
Yes.
Which I dig. And they're running around, they're looking for Momo. They try to go up these stairs, and they are attacked by, flaming energy soccer balls.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit funky, but whatever.
And I'm sure that what happened, because, okay, the effect of this is that they are running up a staircase, and I think that in the shooting of this scene, someone at the top of the staircase just dumps out a big bucket full of 30 soccer balls, and they start bouncing down the stairs. And then in editing, someone has added flame animations around these soccer balls. It's kind of great and also kind of hilarious to just watch the Ohrangers run away from bouncing balls.
Yeah, well, it takes a second to notice. At first, they do just look like energy balls, and then you see that underneath that, they are soccer balls. That's pretty hilarious.
So they run into the class, away from those, into a classroom, and it's the same classroom where Momo and Baron Nightmare have been squaring off before, and they see over by the teacher's pedestal. What is that, Dave?
A lectern? Is that the word you're looking for?
I might be looking for lectern. Anyway, over by that, they see that, if you push it to one side, there is, a secret staircase. And we can see, we're looking at it from a different angle, but it looks like the same staircase that was in the room earlier that had burst into flame. It is,
in fact. Yeah. It is, in fact, the same staircase. Which, that's just some bizarre dream logic. Why would that be? I've been in a lot of classrooms, Matt. You're in a professional capacity.
Sure.
Never once has there been a secret staircase hidden under a lectern. Ever.
Well, okay, that you know of, but they're secret staircases, Dave.
Well, it's a secret until you walk behind the lectern.
That's true.
Because other than that, it's just right there. Anyways, so they go down, and then there's these there's 6 platforms, gurneys, I guess, stretchers. They're stretchers hanging from chains.
Oh, Dave,
and they're covered in
you are jumping ahead a little bit.
Sorry. What did I miss?
Well, because first we cut away from them over to Momo, and she is in a room with one of those stretchers hanging from chains with a red sheet on it.
Oh, I missed that. Okay.
Yeah. So she's in this room, and she walks over, and it looks like there is a person on this platform that is being held up by chains and sort of spinning, covered by the sheet. She thinks it is potentially Mayumi, so she walks over and she pulls the sheet back, only to discover that it is a decrepit skeleton.
Oh, that's right. Okay. And she flips out on Mayumi because she's like, oh my goodness, Mayumi is already dead.
Yeah, well...
okay, now I understand. So, I misunderstood my notes, actually.
Yeah, so Baron Nightmare says, those are the bones of Mayumi. She is long dead. You're way too late. And as Momo sort of stumbles away from this, she is stepping on other skeletons, and Baron Nightmare is saying, actually, they're all dead. You have failed, and you need to leave.
Yeah. Now, she doesn't. Because what she does is she stumbles into another room. And in this room, this is the worst scene in this entire episode.
Potentially this entire show.
Potentially, literally every season of this show that we've ever watched.
Well, we will get back to that in the Creature Royale, because there has been a bad one before.
So she walks into this room, and it's a dark, misty room. If you watch Sentai, you know the kind of room that I'm talking about. And there is a basketball hoop, and there are 6 girls who are in their gym uniforms, which Japanese gym uniforms are a t-shirt and then sort of like a Speedo, basically, like a Speedo bottom, like action underwear. They're skimpy is the point. And then they're like lining up to take free throw basketball shots. And then Bara Nightmare walks in and he's got all his robes back on and he's carrying Mayumi and he puts her down and she joins the queue of like young girls shooting free throws. And Momo walks in and then Bara Nightmare says these words: "How dare you spy on my secret dream?" And that's really what caps it for me, Matt.
Yep. It's extraordinarily bad.
It's almost literally the worst thing he could have said.
I cannot, off the top of my head, think of a worse thing.
Well, me neither. I just like to leave the, like I hate to speak in absolutes.
Sure.
And then my notes just say, it has that quote, and then my notes underneath that just say, this dude may end up being worse than Barracactus.
Yeah. Well, not
just
Barracactus,
even...
General Cactus.
General Cactus, thank you.
It would be very weird
my notes do say Barracactus, but yeah. I can't even engage with the level of creep that is going on here.
Okay, so
I don't know. I can't get any traction on that.
The best way to deal with this, Dave, of
it's
course,
so bad,
is to hit it with your super sword. The other...
Thankfully, Goro arrives.
Yeah, Goro and the other three all arrive. They say, like, hey, Momo, we found you. You take these girls and get out of here. We've already henshin, so we will fight. He summons Star Riser, and he attacks Bara Nightmare, which, like, breaks them all out of the nightmare, right? Like, now they all wake up back in the headquarters.
So, yeah, they wake up back at headquarters, and Momo is cool. Like, everything's great. And so we do sort of it's like a smash cut, but just to indicate that like some time has passed and Momo is like a little bit more with it after having woken up from her crazy nightmare. And they're talking, they're like, what's going on? Like, how are we going to deal with this? Blah, blah, blah. And then Goro suddenly says like, the girls, they must be in the basement, which like I have no idea. It was just weird because like at no point did they say anything that would indicate like why he suddenly reached that conclusion.
Well, I mean, okay, to give Goro some credit here and to give the show a little credit.
I mean, Goro gets a lot of credit.
Yeah.
He just sort of like magically intuited the answer and he was totally right.
Okay, to give the writers some credit, in the course of this nightmare, every time they like encounter Bara Nightmare or find the girls, they're always like going down into the school. There's the elevator, there's the secret staircase, there's all this stuff. And so I guess Goro is interpreting that as like, okay, that's how it appears in the dream, and that must be like
there must be something.
Yeah, like that must
there.
be mirroring sort of how it is in real life.
So they go back to the school, they go back to the same classroom, they move the same lectern, and there is a real secret staircase in this building.
See, man, it's not impossible.
I was so deeply bothered by that. Like, when it was there in the dream world, I was like, oh, okay, like, it's a weird dream world. That makes sense. What they're saying is that this actual school building has an actual secret staircase into the basement from this room under a lectern, which is madness. Anyways, they go down into the room, and all the girls are there.
Well,
except Mayumi. Well, Mayumi's not there. She's in the next room because I think Bara Nightmare says something about Mayumi is my special girl. So that might actually be the worst. If it's not the worst, it's the second worst.
Yeah.
It's between that and how dare you spy on my secret dream.
And when they find these girls, they are on those same sort of like hanging chain platforms.
Yeah, they are. Also, they haven't aged.
Yeah.
At all.
They are all, he has magically stuck them all in their like original ages from when they were abducted.
Yeah. So they burst into the next room and he is there and he doesn't have Mayumi with him, I don't think. She's there, but he's not like, what he is he is holding his photo collage. And he says, Mayumi is mine. I won't give her up. And he is fighting them while holding this photo collage.
Yeah. So he like is does some sort of energy attack, and when that has completed, they are back into a different nightmare realm. But now it is not like a sleeping nightmare thing. This is just like a nightmare dimension that he has brought them to. Yeah, it's like a
hallucination thing. Like Goro says, like, no, like fight through it. It's just a hallucination. There's some like weird stuff.
It's actually not a hallucination
that attacks them.
Yeah, because there's a huge energy skeleton that like shoots them with eye lasers, which is actually kind of great.
Yeah, that's maybe my favorite moment in this episode. And so, but they like do their they do like some energy attacks, or they do their like attacks where they all like spin like on their medial axis and like turn into a ball of energy and then just like smash into him.
Yeah, and what I like is that's the end of Baron Nightmare, because
that's it.
Like Acha and Kocha are not going to grow this guy because he's like living in exile from the Baranoia Empire.
Yeah, so that's game for this guy. Now what is weird is that when he drops the photo collage when he dies, it smashes onto the stairs, which is very like they're not anywhere near those stairs, but whatever. So then they're outside. The Rangers are, that is. And the girls all walk out as though they're like in a beauty pageant, like they're announcing their name and also their year
and their class, yeah.
And their class in that year, like year 4, class 5, blah, 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 blah. And they come out like one by one. It's just they're very weird.
Well, yeah, like, because it's nighttime. The O'Rangers are out in the courtyard. The girls are walking. They're like backlit by their light coming out of the door from the school, and there's like a mist everywhere.
Yeah. So they all walk out. Mayumi is the last one out. She sees Momo. Mayumi does not question at all why Momo is an adult and she isn't.
Well, I mean, Mayumi has been experiencing this thing for 11 years.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true. And so, like, so then there's like a sort of a weirdly long, like,
it's
cutting
so
back and
long.
Forth. It's a solid, like, they cut back and forth between Mayumi and Momo, like, at least 3 times.
They're running towards each other in slow motion with their arms out, like they're going to embrace when they meet in the middle. And they do, but I think they realize, like, oh, we didn't have a giant robot fight. We really need to, like, stretch here.
So they do like they run up, they kind of like grab each other's hands, they spin around, then there's a hug, and then the chief is there and Mayumi's mom is there.
And it takes Mayumi's mom a minute to like realize that that's Mayumi.
Yeah, because they do not, I mean, like, I get it, but like they do not address at all that 11 years has, like, these girls have just time shifted forward 11 years. Like, the rest of the world kept happening, and, well, Mayumi 11, the rest of them fewer than that. Like, the rest of the world kept happening, and they didn't. Like, they just, like, this dude Rip Van Winkled these girls into the future, and it is just, like, it's the clearest case of, like, because a lot of time in Sentai, you look at an episode, you're like, this episode would have enormous repercussions beyond just like, oh, we've killed the monster and everything. Like, sometimes you just kill the monster and everything's fine. Sometimes the monster would have like such an incredible impact on the lives of the people that it was like messing with. And this, I think, is the clearest example of that. Like the damage that Bara Nightmare has done will be felt for like the rest of these people's lives. Yeah. It's horrifying.
And the thing is, the show could have done this differently and like had like grown up versions of these characters, but they would have
been horrible.
Also, that would have been horrible because you would have stolen years of their life away.
I was going to say, no version of this is good.
And also that version also would have been bad, and it would have cost the show more because they would have needed to cast like 6 or 7 more
actors.
kids.
Yeah. So then that's the end of the episode. That's all. That's it.
Yes, Dave, but it is not the end of our episode because now we need to determine whether or not Bara Nightmare is the last place on the Creature Royale.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's super easy. Let me just kind of go ahead and scroll to the bottom here. So, yeah. So at the very bottom is General Cactus. Yes. Just above him is Bara Vacuum. Obviously, Bara Vacuum is better than Bara Nightmare.
Yes.
So Man, okay, so
Now,
General Cactus...
I don't really want to relive the General Cactus experience, but, like, it's been a few years. Can we, like,
yeah,
get
I think,
people
like,
up to
real
speed?
briefly, he would kidnap little girls and turn them into... Like, let me just say, I know this is a kids show and that it's scarier for the little kids if, like, they're the ones being kidnapped, but... As an adult watching the show, it's that much worse. I mean, but Bear Cactus would, like, kidnap little girls and, like, turn them into dolls and keep them around. I keep saying Bear Cactus. Sorry, General Cactus.
Yeah.
And would keep them around.
And he also murdered a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Like, he murdered a gas station full of people. Because he wanted to, like, steal their kids.
Yeah, so... Oh! No. Here it is. I just had to look up General Cactus. He didn't turn girls into dolls. He would kidnap them and paralyze them so that he could play with them like dolls.
That's
on the
right.
Yeah. And then he somehow, I'm just reading the synopsis, he had given a cactus a soul, and it called itself Michiru, and Daigo ended up with that cactus somehow, and she, like, died.
Yeah, there was like
Daigo.
a weird dream sequence where Daigo was, like, trying to save this cactus girl.
Yeah. So man,
I genuinely don't want to talk about, like, I genuinely don't want to have a conversation where we say, hey, is it worse to kidnap a little girl and do one thing or a different thing? Because they're both extraordinarily bad.
Hey, can we just do this? Can we just put a General Cactus / Baron Nightmare and be done talking about both of these terrible characters?
Works for me.
All right, cool. See you guys next week.
Yes. Thank you for hanging out with us this week. We know this episode was bad. And if you watched it with us, we are sorry.
I mean, our episode was good.
Oh, yeah.
I
we
feel
were great.
solid about the work we've done.
But you know what I mean. Sometimes, listen, we've done a couple hundred of these. Sometimes they're very good. Sometimes they aren't. And today was that. But I hope that you enjoyed us, as ever. And that finally is going to do it for this episode of For Your Eyes Ohranger. Before we finish up here, I would like to remind you all that you can email the show at supersentaibrothers@gmail.com. You want to get any updates on future episodes or check out the things that we're talking about on Twitter, we are at Super Sentai Bros. If you like the show, and I hope that you do, please remember that shining in the iTunes review section, there are 5 stars. Please rate, review, subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever it is that you find the show. Speaking of the show, it is a production of Retrograde Orbit Radio. To listen to any of the other great Retrograde Orbit Radio shows, you can do that all at retrogradeorbitradio.com. Once again, we've been the Super Sentai Brothers. I'm Matt.
I continue to be Dave.
And we will see you next week for the greatest show on Earth.